Let's bring in Jessica Levinson. She is on the phone, I believe, with us, joining CBS News Streaming. Jessica?
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being here. You are a CBS News legal contributor. What's your reaction to the $4 million being awarded to the families after they sought $150 million from Alex Jones?
Well, two things, basically. This has to be a disappointment for the families. Obviously, they were asking for a huge amount more. And I think it can't be a huge surprise, though, given some of the questions that we heard from the jury, given that this is really about actual damages. And as you were just discussing, and as I think it's important to remember, the punitive damages part of the trial will resume and is separate. So this is about a different level of damages. This is basically how much did it cost these parents as a result of the torts. And this trial was all about damages. There was already a default judgment that was imposed against Alex Jones. This was not about liability. The next phase is really the phase to watch when it comes to punitive damages. Typically speaking, punitive damages have to be only a kind of reasonable multiple of the actual damages, seen as basically a cap of 10 times as much of the actual damages. So I think at the most, my guess is we're looking at $40 million in punitive. Again, I think that's the most we would be looking at.
What's your expectation as a legal analyst?
So if you look at Alex Jones and if you look at the trial and the fact that we had this really shocking Perry Mason moment where he admitted on the stand that he had lied under oath, that in fact he did not provide text messages where he had texted about Sandy Hook and said earlier in this trial that he had no such text messages, things like that cannot endear him to the jury. Having said that, if we look at the actual damages here, this doesn't, to me, look like a jury that is enraged by his behavior. And it's certainly, because it's such a far cry from what they were asking, I do think we need to be tempered. I would be surprised if we see the maximum amount of punitives, which is $40 million. Again, even though he is, frankly, such an unlikable figure. Let's remember what this is all about. This is about him lying, claiming that the mass murder of children was a hoax and that the grieving parents were paid actors.
Jessica Levinson, a CBS News legal analyst, is with us. Jessica, stay with us. CBS News, Jessica, is being told that this is actually potentially a, quote, partial verdict award. What is your response to that piece of reporting?
So if this is a partial verdict award and not just for all of the actual damages, then frankly, that might be less of a surprise. So I looked down the counts, and it looked like, to me, based on a very quick scan, that this was a full award. But if there's some counts where they either misreported or they hadn't reported the full amount yet, then that obviously changes, again, the actual damages, how much the parents here were harmed, how much out of pocket they had to pay as a result of the defamation and the intentional infliction of emotional distress. But as we've been talking about, similarly, it would change the punitive damages because we're looking at a maximum amount of about 10 times the actual.
And when you step back, Jessica, and you look at the challenge of suing a media personality like Alex Jones, what were the challenges early on in this trial when they tried to take him on, the families from Sandy Hook?
That's such a good question. And I think part of the strangeness of this trial, for lack of a better word, is that this was not about liability. So there have been 4 defamation cases, as I know, against Alex Jones that have all ended in default judgments. What do we mean by that? What we mean is that he was sued for defamation, again, based on these false claims that Sandy Hook was a hoax, that the parents were paid actors. And in all 4 of those cases, he did not respond to court orders to provide testimony or to provide documents. So what the court did is they entered, as we said, a default judgment against him. So there weren't full trials where we had to hear his defense that, in fact, what we understand his defense would have been, that he was protected by the First Amendment in his claims. Now, that obviously changes the trial. So this was all about how much were the parents harmed, not whether or not the torts were committed. And I think that really changes the calculus for how this case proceeded. They didn't have to prove liability. It went straight to the damages phase.
Jessica Levinson, CBS News legal analyst, joins us now. Jessica, stay with us for a moment. You just mentioned that dramatic moment in court when the prosecutor told Alex Jones he had seen 2 years of his phone records and emails. What kind of predicament was that for Jones and his attorney?
So it's a predicament, I think, on a number of different levels. One, in the actual courtroom, he's caught in a lie. And I know that a lot of people are used to seeing trials play out maybe in a fictionalized version on television, but that simply does not happen very often in real life. That really was a Perry Mason, as we said, type moment. The other thing is we already know that Alex Jones, I believe, has been asked, his attorney has been asked by the January 6th committee, and I think either has already been asked or will be asked by the Department of Justice to turn over some of these text messages based on his involvement with January 6th. So this has repercussions and a ripple effect outside of this particular trial. We also need to remember that separately, when Alex Jones said, "I didn't text about Sandy Hook," he was under oath. And now we have texts that show he did text about Sandy Hook. So there's a perjury issue here as well. And that's why the plaintiff's attorney said to him, as this really startling questioning was occurring yesterday, "Do you know what perjury is?" And so I think that, again, this is a multi-pronged kind of hurt for Alex Jones. It's not just this case. It stretches beyond this case.
We'll leave it there. Jessica Levinson from Loyola University and a CBS News legal analyst, thank you so much.